I was 30 years old, and I had already built something the world had never seen before. Apple was worth over $2 billion. My face was on magazine covers. Everyone knew my name. And I believed, truly believed, nothing could stop me. And then I was fired. Not by strangers, by the company I built with my own hands. Most people would break after something like that. I didn't break. That's when I became dangerous. We built Apple from a garage. Woz and I, soldering boards under a single light bulb. I gave everything to that company, every hour, every thought. It wasn't a job, it was my life. Then one morning, the board met without me. They voted. I lost my division, my role, my title. The man I personally recruited to run Apple looked me in the eye and told me I was no longer needed. I was 30 years old. I walked out of that building for the last time, down a long corridor, alone. And I remember thinking, who am I now? Without Apple, I had no answer. The months after were difficult. I had built my entire identity around Apple. And when it was gone, I realized I didn't know who I was without it. And that was a terrifying thing to discover about yourself. And here's what I eventually had to admit to myself. I wasn't ready. I was brilliant, yes, but I was also difficult, abrasive, immature. I drove good people away. The board wasn't entirely wrong. Thus were perhaps the hottest thing I've ever accepted. Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Not immediately, but eventually I understood. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. I made a decision. I wasn't going to complain. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to disappear, and I was going to build something again, from scratch, with no safety net and no guarantee. I founded Next. On paper, it was a computer company. But for me, it was something else entirely. It was a student. And the curriculum was everything I had failed to learn when I was busy being successful. I also invested in a small animation studio everyone thought was going nowhere. Pixar. Everyone told me it was a mistake. That felt familiar to me. But I saw something they didn't see. A group of people who believed stories could change how humans feel about being alive. That felt familiar to me. The press wrote me off. Headlines said Jobs was finished, that I had peaked, that Apple had outgrown me. I read all of it, and I kept working. Those years taught me something I couldn't have learned any other way. Simplicity is not easy. It is the hardest discipline there is. You have to know what to remove, not what to add. It's what people add, they complicate. I learned to subtract, and subtraction done with conviction is the most powerful force in design. By the time those years were over, I was a different person. Less interested in being right, more interested in being great. That shift changed everything. Less focused on what people thought of me, more focused on what the work wagged in of me. That shift, that single shift in focus, changed everything. Before I continue, if this is resonating, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and in the comments, tell me your version of struggle. Every story matters. By 1997, Apple was in serious trouble. The stock had collapsed. They were 90 days from bankruptcy. The company I built with my hands from nothing was 90 days from being gone. And then they called me. Apple acquired Next. And I walked back in that building, not as the young man they threw out, but as someone who had been through the fire and come back tempered. I walked back in and I did something that shocked everyone. I didn't give speeches. I didn't seek revenge. I just started working. Because the work was the point. It was always the point. Apple had over 350 products. I reduced them just four. Many engineers felt hurt, but I had an infusion destroys greatness, and unchecked complexity can kill any company. Then came the work. iMac, iPad, each born from the lessons learned while away, plus the obsession and the courage to remove what didn't belong. The work was better because I was better. Apple became the most valuable company in history. Fired at 30, returned at 42. The real story was who I became in the years no one was watching. Everyone focuses on the comeback, the triumphant return, but that is not the real story. The years of what happened in the middle, lining, quiet evolution, that is where the man went to. I once said, and meant every word, that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could happen again. And that lightness success has replaced pain it gives you, if you're willing to accept it. Let me tell you something about comfort. Comfort is seductive. It tells you that you're safe. Every year you stay comfortable, you lose a little what made you dangerous. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the upgrade. I want to speak to you directly. If you've been passed over, good. If you've been let go, good. But because you are being prepared for something you cannot yet see, there is only one question that matters in these moments. Will you complain or will you evolve? If I hadn't been fired from Apple, there would be no next. No Pixar, no iPhone, no sack. The thing that felt like the end was the beginning. Your setback is your setup, always. So here's what I want you to do. Learn what the failure is trying to teach you. And when you come back as someone the world didn't expect. That is the only revenge worth having. If this story moved you, subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and leave your story in the comments. That conversation is why this channel exists.